The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. When Jesus had risen early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had driven 7 demons. She went and told his companions who were mourning and weeping. When they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they did not believe. After this, he appeared in another form to 2 of them walking along on their way to the country. They returned and told the others, but they did not believe them either. But later, as the 11 were at table, he appeared to them and rebuked them for their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they had not believed those who saw him after he had been raised. He said to them, "Go into the whole world and proclaim the gospel to every creature." The Gospel of the Lord.
This is almost the very end of the Gospel of Mark. We see that the passage is quite unlike the way that Mark has chosen to write his Gospel. There are a number of reasons for this passage appearing as it does. Mark is somewhat without ending. The idea is that there's the original scrolls were damaged in such a way that prevented the copying from one to another. And then we see here in Mark, he's kind of retelling in summary form Matthew and Luke, the endings that we've had already this octave of Easter. And the whole thing kind of comes off kind of flat. I mean, this is not like Mark at all. And yet I'm not saying that because Mark, the original author of the Gospel of Mark, because he likely didn't pen this ending, that we should just throw it out. Quite the contrary. I think that it fits very well with where we are in our celebration of the Easter octave. What do I mean by that? I mean a couple of things. Well, one is this. I think it has the ending here, and this is really actually, we don't get the short ending because that doesn't have a verse number, and that comes before. And then we have this like half of the longer ending of the Gospel of Mark, and you can continue through to the end when you go back home and consult your own Bible. But what we see then is actually a very good reflection on the early events, like what happened that first Easter morning, and how those events then unfolded as they went. It's the reflection. It's like a secondary reflection in that sense, but very early on, and it gives us some look at how the very early Christians understood what was going on in those events, and what the chief exhortation was, likewise coming out of those events that changed the world. And we see that the theme that it keeps coming back is the unbelief of the people. Right, the unbelief of Jesus's disciples, the unbelief of the apostles, is very significant for us. I think, especially this day, right, this Saturday in the octave of Easter, where even though we've celebrated Lent with great fervor and gusto, already probably, if you're like me, your Easter celebration is waning, and you ought to realize that you have more than 40 days left to celebrate Easter. So you realize here, it's like, are we being chided also for our lack of belief? Right? Jesus rose from the dead. This man who was dead and buried came back to life again, and we can't maintain this celebration for a week. You know, it's like we ought to be chided for our lack of faith there. Jesus' resurrection changes everything. Right, what we have given to us as a result of Jesus' resurrection. I mean, like I said, the whole of creation, and here we see, right, go into the whole world and proclaim the gospel to every creature. Even I think the original is more like, go and proclaim the gospel to all of creation. Creation has turned a corner. How do we proclaim the resurrection of Jesus from the dead? We proclaim the resurrection by being the people that he has made us to be by the resurrection. We as we as the image bearers of God are restored to our rightful place in creation as God's good and wise and loving stewards. So, of course, then we're about the work of liberating all of creation according to the original plan and purpose of God. So we are proclaiming the gospel to all of creation. We ought to be by our lives, not simply by our lips, but by our lives as well. We're supposed to be restoring to God's good creation the great order that he had in mind from the very beginning. And we as a very central part in his plan. So this is all going on, right? Where is our belief? Where is our fervor? Where is our energy? Where is our strength these days, if not in the Lord? And just as in Lent we find special graces made available to us because of our dedication to the Lord, because of our making him the absolute center of our hearts and lives, so too now we do the same, but with also the power of the resurrection and the strength of God's own Spirit, his own life of love at work in us and working through us. The creation is set to be liberated from the corrupting forces of sin and death. And today we make that proclamation. Again, yes, with our lips. Yes, with our lives. Yes, with our hearts. With everything we've got, we make that proclamation today. We live totally for Christ the King, victor over the corrupting forces of sin and death, and the one who now breathes his life into us so that we can breathe his life into the world.